Yo guys, and welcome back to another Spore creation video. And for today's creation, we're going to be making something a little bit more old school, and that is quite simply the head of a dragon. Now I must say this design was absolutely inspired by Emberfall. I've been checking out a lot of their project lately and I've just completely fallen in love with the art style. I really couldn't help but feel influenced by them in this design. But otherwise, when it came to making this dragon head, as I said, it's just something a lot more old school. I feel like a lot of my models have been very overly complicated as of late, and admittedly after a certain milestone event, I've been a little bit burnt out, so I've just been wanting to try something much more simple, much more laid back, and just overall just have fun with the game again. And my first idea in mind was to make a good old dragon head. This used to be a very popular style back in the day, back in the older classic days of Spore, once upon a long time ago now, as it was very popular back then. Since obviously you couldn't do an entirely fully fledged, full-on detailed dragon in Spore, you obviously could make dragons in general, but they'll normally tend to be a little bit simple. Since you couldn't always do that, especially have certain, facial features, it was quite a bit of a popular concept for a lot of creators to kind of just like make portraits of the heads themselves. And not just dragons, also various dinosaurs, various animals, etc. Since, as I just mentioned, you couldn't always have the complexity to do all of that, so it's very common to do it just on a head alone, because a head at the end of the day is the more interesting feature of the body. And it does allow you to do some rather interesting detailing that you wouldn't normally do. The biggest example from within this sculpt that I can show you is the scaling around the lips. That is something that I would like to add a lot more often to my designs, sometimes to do every now and then, but it does take away quite a lot from the complexity meter. And even with dark injections involved, even with having an infinite complexity meter, it's still not quite infinite. It still has a very defined limit, and that limit generally means whether or not you crash afterwards. So with that in mind, I've always had to try and keep things a little bit limited, a little bit toned back, not quite as free as I'd like. So just like the good old classic days, the same as here with modded, that's fine. You know what, instead of dealing with the complexity meter, let's just make the head alone. And like I said, I had a lot of fun with this. I actually tried doing a couple of things I actually don't normally do. So like I mentioned, the lips is probably the more defining feature. But also a bit of a popular feature that we tend to see quite often nowadays in more realistic dragon designs, or attempts of realism, is the tubes in the throat. I'm not sure what the technical term for those would be, but basically the little tubes near the bottom of the mouth where you'd expect the fire to come out. And that was something that I'm not really sure what compelled me to add that in. I just figured it'd be a bit of an interesting feature. A bit of another thing that I'm doing in general when it comes to my art, not just in Spore but also in ZBrush. One thing I'm trying to do is pay a little bit more attention to certain areas, since I have recently been having a bit of the sensation that some of my models, some of my creations, my designs, across all mediums, have been getting a little bit samey. I've got a bit of a habit of ignoring certain features, feet being my worst one. I always ignore feet, but just other features in general, such as maybe the underbelly, the shoulders, just so-and-so, the neck is another popular one, and therefore I try to give it like a little bit more attention here, such as with the mouth, the throat, because normally when it comes to these kind of designs, and what I have absolutely done in the past before modded, was I'd make the entire head, I'd make the crusting, I'd make the eyes, I'd make the scales, it'd all look nice and pretty, but then the inside of the mouth would be utterly bare and naked. All you'd have is the teeth and just random tongue jutting out. Maybe you'd have like the little skin flaps that meet at the back of the mouth between the jaws. I'm not sure, again, technical term, but I think we all know the feature I'm referring to. You see it in all dinosaur art, all reptiles, that little flabby bit of skin at the back of the mouth. Those are normally the only parts I add, and for this one I really wanted to add like a little bit more coloration, using just simply vanilla parts alone, have the vanilla parts kind of inherit their own natural coloration into the model. Have the tongue be a little bit more of an interesting part, rather than just using, say, a nail down or a whip wick. I tried to use one of the, I'm not sure what the name of the weapon is, but one of the strike weapons. Made it really thin and curvy, and I thought that would just give it like a bit more of an interesting texture for the tongue. It is a bit thin, I do have to admit, but I just think it's a little bit more interesting. And when it came to the overall crusting, such as on the chin, the neck, the jaw, and the upper part of the snout, Like I said, these here were very much inspired by Emberfall. Like I said, I've really fallen in love with their designs. I've learned a lot about the game recently, about the project, and I really could not help but be influenced. So please bear that in mind, it is entirely influenced by them. I did try to make it a little bit my own. I didn't want it just to be a straight on copy paster. But at the end of the day though, it was more meant to be just for a bit of fun. This dragon design here, the head design, has no real resemblance to anything, not that I was aiming for. It's not really based on anything at all, just a bit of influence by their designs and just purely improv from myself, just to, you know, stretch out the old arms, get a bit back into the game again, get a bit back into more original design, just having fun again. And like I said, I did have a lot of fun. When it came to the coloration, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with the coloration. I just know I wanted warm colours. I was imagining if, hypothetically, I were to create a series of these heads, if you guys really liked this head design and wanted to see more of this kind of style, while I was colouring this in, I had the idea, what if I did different elementals? What if I did like a green one, a blue one, a yellow one? So in that case, I thought this one should be like a bit of a red, maybe like a reddy brown, like a kind of a fire drake design. I didn't know if I wanted to be fire specifically, because I didn't really want a bright red design. So I went with a bit of a more dusty, browny colour scheme, and to be honest, I do really like it. I think it looks quite natural in terms of the colour scheme, nothing really too obtuse, too contrasty, but it has a nice healthy contrast with the spikes, with all the various horns and such, with the teeth, and of course the innards of the mouth. I did want the mouth to be pale, and therefore I was actually really happy with how that came out. I think the neck is a little bit lazy, a little bit sloppy. I think it could have had a lot more detailing, but that is unfortunately due to the complexity meter. It's kind of ironic really, I make a head alone, that way I can combat the complexity meter, and in the end it still ends up getting me in the process regardless. But like I said, I really enjoyed it. And as always, I really hope that you all enjoyed it as well. Like I said, this is a really old school kind of theme or genre that used to be the case back in the early days of Spore. It's a good bit of fun, I would recommend it. It's a much more relaxed style, and it really allows you to add in details to a head or a face that you wouldn't normally do before, so I would recommend it. It's especially great for meg building, and like I said, more importantly, just have fun. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.